Purple dingbat.
Purple dingbat.
Purple dingbat.
Purple dingbat.
Purple dingbat.
You've probably heard of cherry picking. Cherry picking is just one of the manipulation techniques that political campaigns use to sell their product, the candidate, and to tear down the competition. Purple Dingbats is an ongoing project to share these techniques with the American voter.
PD number 1, Glurge and numbers, tugging at your heartstrings and looking smart.
It's morning again in America. Today, more men and women will go to work than ever before in our country's history. With interest rates at about half the record highs of 1980, nearly 2,000 families today will buy new homes, more than at any time in the past 4 years. This afternoon, 6,500 young men and women will be married. And with inflation at less than half of what it was just 4 years ago, they can look forward with confidence to the future. It's morning again in America. And under the leadership of President Reagan, our country is prouder and stronger and better. Why would we ever want to return to where we were less than 4 short years ago?
The Greek philosopher Aristotle taught that there were 3 pillars of persuasion: logos, data research logic; pathos, emotion and connection; ethos, credibility and expertise.
Modern-day psychologists talk about central versus peripheral processing, or rational versus intuitive. Most people, however, would say mind and gut. Candidate Harris has been accused of being inconsistent in her policies and platform, an attack that is one of the oldest in the campaign book. From wishy-washy Jimmy Carter to flip-flopping John Kerry.
Problems. Ask him any question.
What about Korea?
We don't belong in Korea. Let the commies have it. We should expand the war. Open a second front in China.
Wait a minute. We can't do both. We can't pull our troops out of Korea and invade China.
Go away, lady. You bother me. Any more questions?
What about aid to Europe?
I'll personally tear down the Iron Curtain. Not another nickel down that rat hole. Let the commies have it.
That's double talk.
What are you complaining about? You get 2 policies for the price of 1.
Stop confusing the issue. I want...
Candidate Harris could quote economist John Maynard Keynes and say, "When my information changes, I alter my conclusions." Instead of logos, however, she mostly relies on pathos.
Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't.
You wanted. And was there some policy or scientific data that you saw that you said, "Oh, okay, I get it now"?
What I have seen is that we can grow and we can increase a thriving clean energy economy without banning fracking. And a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down. And name calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up.
Our country is prouder and stronger and better. Why would we ever want to return to where we were less than 4 short years ago?
But what about Aristotle's ethos? You might think that voters evaluate a candidate's expertise using only logic.
In fact, it's one of the most emotionally manipulated aspects of a campaign. Even just wearing eyeglasses makes a candidate look smarter.
A favorite manipulation technique is something political consultants call ivory soap, inspired by one of the most successful slogans in the history of advertising.
99 and 44/100% pure.
If the makers of Ivory Soap had claimed their product was 100% pure, it would have been dismissed as an advertising lie. 99.44%, however, sounds like they tested it, which makes consumers trust that information and the product.
Psychologists call this precision bias. In a political campaign, you don't really need the hundredths, but if the candidate can rattle off numbers, voters will think they have ethos.
Give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one. Number two, that $2 trillion tax cut benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 billion, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President.
Many pundits and bloggers have made fun of "we beat Medicare," but it was candidate Biden's flubbing of a whole lot of numbers that kneecapped his credibility.
Candidate Romney did a much better job in the 2012 election.
Our association and connection with our allies is essential to America's strength. We're the great nation that has allies, 42 allies and friends around the world.
And candidate Trump's use of the technique is spectacular.
By the way, you know who's taking the jobs that are created? 107% of those jobs are taken by illegal aliens. And you know who's being hurt the most by millions of people pouring into our country? The black population and the Hispanic population, because they're taking the jobs from our black population, our Hispanic population, and...
In this video, we introduced Aristotle's logos, pathos, and ethos. We also discussed the ivory soap technique and precision bias. In the next video, we'll discuss the Music Man technique.